guys, welcome to Crash Course Literature. So today we will be discussing the play The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. Now, Oscar Wilde was an infamous figure during his time. He was a well-known personality due to his contempt for conventional values, his flamboyance and wit, and his belief in aestheticism, which was a movement that was based on the doctrine that art exists for the sake of its beauty, rather than any deeper meaning or principle. As with his other work, these qualities certainly showed through The Importance of Being Earnest. Written during the Victorian era in England, what made the play so unique in comparison to other theatre productions of the time period was that it wasn't about a serious social or political issue. So some critics of the time considered his play to be nonsensical, trivial, and devoid of meaning. But it was overall considered his biggest success. It follows protagonists that create false identities to escape their social obligations, in which drama, confusion, and hilarity ensues. But beneath its deceptively silly narrative is actually a profound satirical criticism of the conventions of Victorian society. So, The Importance of Being Earnest had an incredibly successful opening night, marking the climax of Oscar Wilde's career, but also ultimately leading to his downfall. Wilde was lovers with Lord Alfred Douglas, whose father, the Marquess of Queensberry, was more than not happy about it. And so he embarked on a scathing crusade against Wilde in order to demean him and tried to end their relationship. He planned to present Wilde a bouquet of rotten vegetables to disrupt the opening night of The Importance of Being Earnest. Wilde heard of this and Queensberry was refused admission. Unable to disrupt his opening night, Queensberry tried to confront Wilde at a private club. Denied entry again, he instead left a calling card for him saying, "For Oscar Wilde," posing as a sodomite. This led to Wilde's court trials, where he was sentenced to 2 years hard labor for gross indecency. The Importance of Being Earnest was only performed 86 more times before it was shut down due to Wilde's resulting notoriety in society. After the trials, Lord Alfred Douglas was forced into exile in Europe. They reunited after Wilde was released, but then they broke it off due to personal differences and outside pressures. So no happy ending there. He later published The Importance of Being Earnest from exile in Paris, but he wrote no further comic or dramatic work. What happened to him for being gay was truly unfortunate, and he lived the rest of his life bankrupt, reputation tarnished, health deteriorating, spirit broken, until he died at the age of 46. But the legacy he's left as an author and playwright has prevailed, and in regards to The Importance of Being Earnest, the wit and humor of the play is what has made it his most enduringly popular work. Now, let's get into the plot before this gets any more depressing.
So, The Importance of Being Earnest is about a man named Jack Worthing who leads a rather boring life in the country, Hertfordshire. Now, this will get a little confusing, so we're gonna need our handy-dandy whiteboard. So, Jack doesn't know who his real parents are because he was abandoned as a baby in a handbag at Victoria Station and was adopted by an old man named John Worthing. So we have Jack and the handbag and John, who found the handbag and adopted Jack. Now, John had a granddaughter named Cecily, and when John died, Jack was entrusted with the responsibility of raising her. So here we have Cecily and John, her grandpa, okay? Now, Jack served as a good guardian to Cecily, but he wanted to be able to leave the country and have fun in London. So, of course, the most logical solution to this would be to fabricate a disobedient younger brother named Ernest, who always needs help getting out of trouble, as an excuse to leave Cecily and her governess, Miss Prism, for a weekend of fun in town under the name of Ernest. Basically, Cecily is Jack's ward, Miss Prism is her governess, and Jack is secretly Ernest, but Cecily and Miss Prism don't know that. Let's go to the thought bubble.
The play opens with Jack and Algernon, Jack's best friend in town, talking in Algernon's house. Keep in mind that Algernon only knows Jack by the name of Ernest and is not aware that Jack has a ward named Cecily. Jack complains about his missing cigarette case, which prompts Algernon to confront Jack about the inscription on the inside of the case, which reads, "From little Cecily, with her fondest love, to her dear Uncle Jack." Jack eventually admits that his name isn't actually Ernest and that Cecily is his very young and attractive ward. It is then that Algernon reveals that he has a fake identity as well named Bunbury, which he uses to enjoy a peaceful life in the country. Algernon and Ernest are then interrupted by Lady Bracknell, Algernon's aunt, and Gwendolen, her daughter. Jack and Gwendolen have been involved with each other behind Lady Bracknell's back, and Algernon agrees to distract Lady Bracknell while Jack proposes to Gwendolen. Gwendolen says yes, but reveals that she only loves Jack because his name is Ernest. Then, when Lady Bracknell learns of the engagement, she begins to interrogate Jack to see if he is fit to marry her daughter. Lady Bracknell forgives Jack for his lack of moral character and for his self-professed ignorance, but refuses to accept him as a suitor for Gwendolen because of his unconventional abandonment and adoption. Jack is distraught over Lady Bracknell's refusal to allow him to marry Gwendolen, so he decides to put an end to his double life in town by lying to everyone that his brother died of illness. Gwendolen and Jack agree to continue to see each other in secret, and Jack gives Gwendolen his address in the country. Algernon overhears Jack's address and sneaks into the country to pursue Cecily as Ernest, Jack's deceased younger brother. Algernon successfully tricks Cecily into believing him, and she confesses that she has been in love with Ernest ever since Jack told her about his scandalous life. She, like Gwendolen, only loves Algernon because of his name, Ernest. Then, Jack returns to the country where he is greeted by Miss Prism, Cecily's governess, and Dr. Chasuble, a reverend. Jack tells him about the death of his brother, and then he gets the idea to be christened as Ernest so that his name will actually be Ernest to deserve Gwendolen's love. He returns to his home and is greeted by Cecily, who shows him that Ernest, aka his brother, isn't actually dead by revealing Algernon. Jack is understandably upset and becomes even more upset when he learns that Algernon also plans to be rechristened by the Reverend as Ernest. The two men leave to sort it out, and Gwendolen appears at Jack's home without the consent of Lady Bracknell. Gwendolen meets Cecily, and they become jealous and confused when they learn that they are both engaged to Ernest Worthing. Jack and Algernon return, and the women realize that they have both been tricked into believing that their fiancé's name was Ernest. The men try to win them back when Lady Bracknell enters, having secretly followed Gwendolen all the way from town. Dr. Chasuble enters as well, ready for Jack's and Algernon's christenings. Miss Prism also comes in, seeking Dr. Chasuble, but quickly regrets it when she sees Lady Bracknell. According to Lady Bracknell, Miss Prism stole a baby from her sister's home 28 years ago, but Miss Prism reveals that she actually misplaced the baby and doesn't know where it is now. She only knows that she had accidentally put a book within a stroller and the baby in a handbag at Victoria Station. Jack finds the handbag that his adopted father found him in, and Miss Prism reveals that it is indeed hers.
Thanks, Thought Bubble. So if you haven't figured it out yet, Miss Prism misplaced Jack, meaning that Jack is Algernon's older brother, Gwendolen is his cousin, and Lady Bracknell is also his aunt. But that's not even the craziest part. Jack was actually christened after his father's name before he was lost, and his father's name was, wait for it, Ernest. The last line of the play is Jack saying, "I've now realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest."
This drama was written as a satire of the time period it was set in, the Victorian era. This era was characterized by a high importance placed on wealth and status, as the aristocracy saw the growing middle class as a problem. In all social spheres, the place for women was married and in the house. The play repeatedly mocks Victorian traditions and social customs, marriage, and the hypocrisy and superficial nature of people in its time. The characters are caricatures or representations of Victorian life. Lady Bracknell, Gwendolen's mother, is a caricature of the typical judgmental, high society Victorian woman. Gwendolen represents conventional womanhood, poised, graceful, and self-assured, whereas Cecily, in contrast, is innocent, unspoiled, and whimsical.
Algernon is Jack's antithesis as a dandy figure, charming, witty, selfish, and with no regard for morals. Jack represents conventional Victorian values more than any other character. He keeps up the facade of an upstanding member of Victorian society and regards himself as a man of high moral standards. However, through his alter ego as Earnest, he hypocritically disregards his own moral standards for his own selfish desires. By having a second identity, he can misbehave however he likes without holding himself, Jack, accountable. Marriage, conventionally thought of as romantic and sincere, is also heavily mocked as a trivial convention. Gwendolyn and Cecily only want to marry Jack and Algernon, respectively, when their names are Earnest. Jack and Algernon only get engaged to them in the first place through deception. And with Lady Bracknell, her standards for marriage are grounded in social status, not love.
So, Gwendolyn and Cecily want to marry Algernon and Jack for very superficial and trivial reasons. Lady Bracknell, while evaluating Jack's fitness as a potential husband for her daughter, judges him on the superficial matter of whether he conforms to her standards of a high society Victorian man. She disapproves of their engagement in the first place because she finds his background to be undignified. Oh, it's time for the open letter. Oh, over here. Now, an open letter to Algernon. Dear Algernon, to some known as Earnest. The name Algernon is by far the dumbest, most nonsensical name I have ever heard in my life. I fully understand why Cecily wouldn't love you if you called yourself that instead of Earnest. You weren't a good friend to Jack, also known as Earnest, whenever he needed you the most. Aside from all that, why does your name have a soft G sound instead of a hard one? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why is it Algernon instead of Algernon? Anyways, best wishes, Bryson McBroom. But anyways, the resolution further emphasizes the motif of superficiality, showing how Gwendolyn and Lady Bracknell continue to judge Jack through their standards. Finding out that Jack's real name was Earnest all along, she is more than happy to marry him, and finding out that he's her nephew, Lady Bracknell is more than happy to disregard her previous judgments in light of his newfound social status. Ultimately, Jack's lies yield no consequence, and he gets everything that he wants in the end. Oscar Wilde shows that the tolerance for hypocrisy in Victorian life makes the moral standards trivial. So the meaning of the title, The Importance of Being Earnest, is a play on words and a reflection of this theme. Jack learns the importance of being both earnest, Gwendolyn is not interested in him unless his name is Earnest, and earnest, Gwendolyn doesn't trust him for lying about his identity. In the end, Jack, Earnest, learns that he was actually lost as a baby and was christened as his father's name, Earnest. The audience then realizes that they had sat through an entire play only to witness one of the most devastating puns ever created by man. It is also ironic that throughout the entire play, the characters mock earnestness and sincerity. Wilde seems seriousness as a hallmark for false, moral, and righteous Victorian society. The title reflects a sense of hypocrisy portrayed by all of the characters and by the existing people in society. Thanks for watching.
Ba-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da.
Hey guys, welcome to Crash Course Literature. So don't laugh! See?
I can see your eyes. Like, try to at least look in the camera for most of I almost fell. No! Earnest.
After that,
And scene.
Wait, no, it's not good because the marker was like Earnest. I can't freaking stop.
Earnest.
Action.
conventional womanhood. Gwendolyn and Cecily both only want to marry Jack and Algernon, respectively, when their names are Earnest. Jack and Algernon only get engaged to them in the first place through deception, and with Lady Bracknell, her standards for marriage are grounded in social status, not love. I'm sorry.
High society Victorian man. She disapproves of their engagement in the first place because she finds his background to be
Your voice was like...
lies. She went too far.
You can still see the...
No, I don't know what that says. Jack lies yield?
Jack's lies.
Are you dyslexic?
It's okay.